I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff. The motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Here today, the VRX World Cup has decided to take a right-hand turn this week as we bring you to Watkins Glen International Speedway, live for race number 5 of 8. It's VRX World Cup. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper. Alongside me tonight, we have Stephen Brown and Justin Prince taking a little hiatus tonight as he does some real-world location broadcasting. But here tonight, Stephen, we've seen a number of different races here, a variety of different tracks, but not a road course yet in the regular season. It should be interesting.
It is going to be interesting tonight, Bradley, as these drivers are more comfortable with the high speed of these oval tracks. Here at Watkins Glen, they're, like you said, they are going to have to make a right-hand turn tonight. And talking to some of these drivers tonight, they said that this track is very loose, especially through the S's, through the tunnel turn of turn 1, and through the chicane around turn 6 and 7. And the bus stop is going to be one tricky place for drivers to make a pass. A lot of people say that's where passing is going to be most crucial. It's just going to be up to the driver whenever they can make the decision.
A lot of mistakes can be made on this downhill turn 1, the hard right-hand 90-degree turn. You're getting up to about 160 miles per hour before you hit that slope. And we'll look for turn 1 carnage. Hopefully we can get through that. I feel like if we can get through turn 1 here unscathed, there's a good chance this track can go a long way without a caution or a wreck. They will not throw the yellow flag here tonight unless there is a complete blockage of the racetrack. So race analysis up on your screen there. 50 laps here tonight. Pit road going to be 40 miles per hour on the speed limit. 1 tire set available. Full course cautions, of course, disabled. 1 fast repair. And we are running the iRacing Fix setup here tonight. Take a look at your points real quick here. The points lead has changed. Richard Hurst had it for the first 3-4 races, and he's since fallen down to 3rd. Chris Hodges takes over James Wagoner. And that winner last week, well, I tell you what, it was another tough one, but we've got two-time win here from William Britton. Chris Phillips getting a win. A lot of different names adding themselves to this list as we progress through the season. But let's get you trackside now for your grid and your Carpe Diem Pole Award here tonight. That's going to go to the number 05 of PJ Cox. And he was quick in practice. He ran a 1:11 to put him up towards the top. Well, I had my script and I lost it. Must have closed it out, but that's okay. Make sure you guys check out Carpe Diem Creations, whether it's for a loved one, a memory for someone close. Check them out on Facebook. Links in the description. But as we move on through the grid here, we've got to go with the number 74 of Brian Hennings is going to start on the outside. They both run a 1:12, but row number 2, more of the same. These guys, well, we got Brian Hennings listed twice for whatever reason. It's Howerton actually gets the second position. There we go. Now we got on point Christopher Hodges. I'm just nothing without Justin Prince here, Steven. Joseph Fagioni is going to start in 5th. Dustin Buck, 6th position. 7th, Chris Phillips. Richard Hurst in 8th. And rounding out the top 10 is William Britton and Casey Ellis.
And starting out for your top 20 is going to be the 033 of Luke Rakowski, starting out with John Hudson on his inside, with Shane Gunter coming up behind them, and Daryl Aronson. He's been running pretty strong tonight, with Greg Spiker starting up behind them, and Greg Pillar. Battle of the Gregs tonight. Wonder if that's going to be interesting. Bill Daniels is going to be starting in the 17th position alongside with James Wagner.
Oh, we didn't quite get through your entire grid. 27 cars here to start the day. But here we go, live and racing for Watkins Glen. Coming by to lead lap number 1, it's going to be the 05 of PJ Cox. Brian Hennings keeping him in check. Michael Howerton falls back to the 3rd spot. Chris Phillips in 4th, last week's winner. Joseph Fagioni is going to come by in 5th position. So the top 5 stays about the same. 3 spots gained, though, for the 4th place driver. The 6 of Phillips on the move quickly. He took advantage of some of these guys overshooting turn 1.
Yeah, overshooting turn 1 is going to be a little bit of a factor for some of these drivers, because they're going to be braking a little too late going past the start-finish line. And braking in that entire corner is going to be crucial, because if you can be able to dive down into that corner and avoid the bump right there on the rumble strips, you could have yourself into a pretty good position to get yourself through the S's and up the hill down into turn 2 and 3.
So Cox up front still. Has the 74 of Hennings within striking distance if he makes a mistake. The points leader here, Chris Hodges, coming out of the carousel now. A little change up there on the hood of this machine. Looks like we got Dale Jr. on the front end.
I'm pretty sure that's Dale Sr.
Is it Dale Sr.? I don't think so. Let's see if we can get a better
I kind of saw the
look.
iconic mustache.
I can't get a good angle of it. Either way, he's in it. He's in 9th place, up in the top 10. Checking back up with this battle in 4th position. Shane Gunter is on the outside of the 30 cars that go into turn 1. Let's see if he can claim this position for 17. James Wagoner touches the rumble strips, and Gunter will move up a position. He's actually down 4 from where he began the race, though. He's fallen back. Started up in 13th. Some of these drivers just kind of dipping their toe in the water, trying to test it out. Very slick, very hot track. You said that you were out here earlier talking to these drivers, got a little time on the racing surface, and it was difficult to get around this place.
It is pretty difficult, Bradley, because as you said, the track is really hot. These tires will just melt through this entire track, and it also depends on how hard you're braking these cars, especially going through the chicane where most of the braking, including into turn 1, is going to eat up those tires and ruin the run that these drivers are going to try to want. Saving tires here is not a strategy between most of these drivers. Most of the strategy tonight is just to survive and not cause an accident, keep the car clean, and potentially come out in whatever position that they want to try to come out in.
Well, it's survival of the fittest here. A war of attrition is what these tracks come down to, and without the full course cautions, the factor is if you make a mistake, you can find yourself completely out of this race. And also, a new rule here in the VRX World Cup, pass-through penalties for every 12x of incidents. So all these off tracks that you might see where guys cut the surface, for every time they do that, they get a 1x. If they cut the track too much, they'll have to come through pit road because of a black flag. And if they don't come into pit road, they'll get a DNF.
And that's going to be very frustrating for some of these drivers. I was speaking with a few of them. Richard Hurst in particular, he does not like this new rule change one bit. He thinks it just came on a little too late coming into this race. And he believes that it should have been made a rule from the start of the VRX World Cup. And just throwing it out there against these drivers, it is pretty frustrating. I can understand it based on being a driver myself.
Well, and the frustration lies with, track stewards have to do their jobs and change and adjust accordingly. And we've had some pretty frustrating races overall in the races prior. Kansas was in what we would call a very tough race to get through. And, I don't think there was a car really unscathed in that race from all the cautions. We had 17 yellows. So you can't blame VRX for trying to make adjustments according to that, and every driver is on the same playing field. So if you want the rules like that to go away, you got to prove yourself out here on the racetrack. 65 goes off there in the exit of 1, overshoots the runway a little bit, has some guys passing. There's the 01 of Jimmy Sox trying to get by him, but Greg Spiker off the racetrack and then kind of tightens up here in the S's. There's John Hudson in 22nd trying to get by the 01 as they go into the bus stop, all the way to the right.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tricky for some of these drivers to go through the chicane right there whenever somebody's on their inside or outside, left or right side. And if they brake too late, it's going to cause them to go through the cones, which will result in a cutting a course penalty. They'll get a wrapped up black flag, and they'll have to slow down and lose their track position based on however much time that they gained from it.
And Spiker is down 7 positions now. He's fallen back to 22nd. It seems that Spiker's not trying to force the issue with anybody, really. Maybe a little bit of racing here every now and then, but looking very loose. Both these cars, Jimmy Sox and Greg Spiker, both having some troubles. The battle for the lead still hot. 0.3 of a second now. How about this? PJ Cox, who has had decent races but hasn't had the finishes to match it, sitting up here on the pole. Ryan Hennings also has turned up the heat this week as he rides on the back bumper. Now within 0.2 as they come off at the final turn.
And Brian has had one great bits of practice. I personally practiced with him during the week, and he's just been a monster. He really loves this. The only thing that he likes to say about this track is that it is a rhythm. Once you get into that rhythm, you could go even lap the entire field as long as you keep that mentality of, I gotta hit my marks, I gotta hit my braking points, and not make a single mistake, such as chattering the tires coming off the turns at turn 7, coming onto the front stretch, or even overshooting at turn 1.
He's got to be careful not to get too many off tracks there through the chicane. You can see he's clipping those rumble strips, and iRacing will score you on the surface as long as you stay on those strips. But if you start to get tires veering off into the grass, that'll count towards that incident limit. Michael Howerton has fallen back about 5 seconds now from the leaders as they come out of the carousel. Looks like the 52 struggling a little bit here on the exit. That runoff, though, you can see drivers doing that on the exit of the carousel, but it used to be done in the exit of turn 1. You've seen drivers since shy away from that. It seems like a change to the iRacing surface with the new tire models or the track data makes that part of the racetrack extremely slippery.
Yeah, iRacing completely rescanned the entire track. I believe that because they have new rules in place in NASCAR, that if you go over the rumble strips, it will result in a wrapped up black flag where you're cutting the course. And it's pretty difficult for these drivers to stay off, or correction, on the track side of the rumble strips and not go over the rumble strips, where it will result in a penalty and in a black flag.
Check back here with Joseph Fagioni. He's in the 4th position, up 1 from where he began this race as he comes through the bus stop here. 4th position for the 10 car. Good to see him having a decent race here as he marks up another lap. Falls back 10 seconds from the lead. The front 2 are in their own class here tonight. On board here with Richard Hurst. He's up 1 position as well. He's trying to catch up to these front 2. You got Bill Daniels and Chris Phillips. Phillips, remember, was up in 4th position at one point, so a mistake made here by the 6 car at some point, and Hurst trying to chase him down as they come down the front straightaway. Side by side to the inside now for the 6 car. He's going to pick up, or 21 car rather, and a crossover now as they exit 1. So Hurst had the spot briefly, but now through the S's has to get it back.
And it's all part of the braking strategy going into 1. As you can see, the 6 actually braked sooner than the 21. The 21 thought he had a little bit more speed going into the corner, but as you saw, he came up higher onto the rumble strips, which gave the 6 that opportunity to get that drive off under the corner and get his spot back for that little brief of time. But he does know that the 21 is knocking at his rear door, wanting that spot, and it's just going to be up to Richard to wait for that one mistake.
Hasn't happened yet. William Britton has closed in on this battle, though. In the 8th spot, he's catching up to him. And then it's a pretty sizable gap. If you want to look back for Chris Hodges, your points leader, he's back in 9th. So taking on board with the 34 car again. Hodges does well at the 1.5 miles, but looks to be struggling a little bit here at Watkins Glen.
The 6 had a mistake going into turn 6. He actually overshot the rumble strip and it allowed the 21 to take over that position.
So we look the camera away for just a moment there, and Hurst actually working on catching the 10 car Fagioni now for the top 5. Up through the S's, looking pretty clean. I mean, not a lot of movement in the gyro cam, and we go on board with him nice and smooth up the hill. That's what you got to do. Even if you're not fast through that portion of the racetrack, that is probably the most treacherous part where you can lose it easily. And if you do go sideways there, the transitions in the hills, people can't see you. It's a good chance you're going to get hit.
That's what most of these drivers call a blind hill. You can't really see what's going on in front of you until you're right on top of it, and that's what these drivers are going to try to do, is be focused, looking out their windshield, and not focusing on the person behind them, because the second that they look in their rear view, they could be on top of something that they can't avoid.
So pass here on some lap traffic. The 10 goes around. I believe that was the 56, Benjamin Richards. But he'll be scored a lap down now. Greg Spiker 2 laps down. Looks like he came to pit road to get some damage repaired here. He's back down on the racetrack. Teresa Spiker a lap down, and Jimmy Socks just lost a lap. PJ Cox and Brian Henning still within half a second of each other, but they're coming up on lap traffic, and so this is an entirely different factor.
Oh, the only thing that they're going to try to do is be patient with these lap cars. As you can see, the 66 just letting them go on by, not giving them any sort of race or any sort of problems, which a lot of these drivers take into being respectful. If you race somebody just because you're a lap down, that's not very respectful, because you're not in contention for the win or any sort of position. You're just holding up the leaders and giving them problems.
Edward Bedler goes down a lap. Last car on the lead lap right now, James Wagoner, and he's under fire from a couple other cars in front of him as they go by on the outside. John Hudson. A little battle here from 17th back to 20th. Shane Gunter leading this pack. And then a short little stint here to the 818 of Kevin Mulcahy. A little off pace here tonight, started 23rd. He's picked up some spots, but he's at threat of going a lap down very early in this race.
And I believe this is just going to play into most of these guys' strategy is they don't really want to race for the win. They just want to finish. They don't care if they go down a lap. As long as they're making laps, getting familiar with the track, because who knows, we might be able to have this track later on in possibly the next season of the VRX World Cup, and that way they have this in their toolbox for possibly even better race next season.
And you look at the space between Ricky Evans and that's 13th position up here to Luke Rakowski in the 033, Casey Ellis. These guys are almost 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. So 12th of Rakowski back. Big split here in times overall. Give you a comparison here. PJ Cox, last time by, he ran a 1:14.3. His best lap time, a 1:12. The drivers we were just talking about with Luke Rakowski, best lap, a 1:15. And last time by, a 1:17.5. So they're about 2 seconds off, and it's no wonder Hennings and Cox right now are working their way through this traffic. These guys 2-3 seconds slower. You multiply that by 13 laps. This is what you get.
We got ourselves a pretty good battle going on with the 10 and the 28, just coming up off the S's on the back stretch going into the chicane. The 10 has been catching him a little bit by little bit, just waiting for that one mistake where he either spins the tires a little too much coming off the corners and catches a little sideways action, but he's just waiting there, waiting patiently, and just hoping he's going to burn up his tires a little bit more. As you can see coming off the bus stop, the 28 had a little bit better run off the 10, but it's just going to be a waiting game. As you can see, Richard Hurst is going to start bringing his nose into the action, trying to catch up and get himself more up front, because as you said, he did lose his spot as the leader in the points, and I think he's trying to fight his way back up front so he can get back up into the points.
So after navigating all that lap traffic, PJ Cox and Brian Hennings spread out a little bit. I think Hennings might have met a lap car at the wrong time and lost about 0.5 of a second. And he'll be coming up the S's here with one more lap car in front of PJ Cox into the bus stop. That is the 818 of Mulcahy, now officially a lap down. So we only have 13 cars left on the lead lap here, and we're about, let's say, a fifth of the way done, a little bit over that. And a little loose moment there for the 05. That allows Hennings to get a decent run down the straightaway, but not much time shaved off.
Feel that battle back here with Richard Hurst, Bill Daniels, and that 10 of Fagioni. And it looks like Richard Hurst is going to use a little bit of that draft on the backstretch, but he's going to check it up a little bit, not cause an accident going through, as the 10 overshoots the turn. I believe his tires are starting to wear out on him, as you can see he's lost the spot to Richard Hurst as Richard Hurst tries to make his run at the 28.
21 car on the move, now up 3 positions. Bill Daniels is up 13 spots though, and thus far the butt kicker biggest mover of the race. at threat to lose one of those positions, but he is officially, regardless, going to be that biggest mover. Another big mover of the race, even though he's a lap down. That's the 818 of Kevin Mulcahy, and he's trying to catch up. Oh, we got a car back here sideways, right in front of Hennings. And I missed the number on that. I believe that's Shane Gunter that got moved out of the way or hit the brakes a little early. Let's take this back on the instant replay and find out what happened. So that was the 3 got into the back of the 38 car, and the 22 just had to lock it up. That was Jeff Scott and the 3 of Hudson that got into it there just before the chicane. You see the braking, and the 3 car just doesn't stop.
Yeah, listening over on the scanner, I heard that the 3 apologized to Jeff Scott. He was just not paying attention and just wasn't able to lock up the brakes soon enough to try and get slowed down before getting into the chicane. He's just running his own race at this point. But making mistakes like that could cost anyone dearly.
Yeah, and you see the damage on the front end of the 3 car. Probably doesn't affect the steering too much. Looked like he hit him pretty square, but unfortunately, damage nonetheless, and he'll be back to 16th, and Scott loses 2 spots. Interesting to see if that 38 car gets back to the rear end of that 3. If he hunts him down, what will happen?
If he hunts him down, tries to get some repercussions
Oh, Hennings is
done.
around.
Oh,
That's second place driver Brian Hennings, and he's stopped in the middle of the racetrack here. Howerton's going to get by for the second position. And that's a big mistake there for the 74 car. He had it pretty much locked in here for a second place finish. But after this, it looks like a move to the inside of a lap car and then just overshoots the rumble strips here. And that'll do it.
based on seeing that mistake right there. These cars are like what I spoke to these drivers before the race. They are extremely loose, especially coming off the rumble strips. If you even tap the gas just a little bit, it will send the car around if you're trying to get off the rumble strips. As these rumble strips are designed to let you know you're on them and about to come off. They're not designed to keep you on the track and push you forward. They're mainly there as a, hey, you're about to come off the track.
Yeah, well, and the main portion of it, too, is that they have lack of traction because of their design. Now, you see the rumble strips here in the carousel. They're a little more forgiving. They still have that kind of transitional traction. You see a lot of drivers. I hate that camera there on the exit of that corner. It's a lot louder than the rest of them. But as you see, a little more forgiving on some of these rumble strips because they're not utilized as much. They're not as tight of a corner versus the bus stop chicane. They're really wide. It's easy to overshoot that. Put your whole car on a rumble strip, kind of upsets the suspension. You can send you into the grass very quickly. So here's Daniels and Hurst still going at it for fourth position. Hennings not too far ahead of this after his spin that sent him back to third. 9-second gap. PJ Cox has pulled out to over Michael Howerton. Hennings 13 back. It's quite the gap for the top three now. And the closest battle on the racetrack, the 21 and the 28. And it looked like Daniels locked it up there just before he hit the chicane.
That's not a really good thing to do. With these tires, they do wear out really fast here on Watkins Glen. And if you lock them up, you'll have that flat spot in them. You'll heat them up way too much and you'll lose forward bite on the car. You won't be able to make any of your turns as consistently as you would like it. So I'm hoping that he's going to try to play it safe, keep the tires cool, not lock it up as much as possible. But who knows? It's just going to be on him to figure it out.
William Britton has worked up to the back of Chris Phillips now for the 7th position. Phillips was really strong there in those out laps, but now he's struggling. He's down probably a good 4 seconds from his best lap time. And we talked about that a little bit in the pre-race since some of these drivers were coming out. And you mentioned some lap times. I said, well, if they can do it twice, then I'll be impressed. And here, almost running him off the racetrack into the S's, the 6 car trying to play defense up the hill. And Britton's going to have to concede for a second here as he gets really loose in the second part of the S's. And he loses all that ground, has to get the momentum back to catch back up to the 6 car.
A lot of these drivers were saying that throttle control through the S's is key to try to even battle your way into a position. And whenever he was playing defense with the the 64, I'm pretty sure the 64 just put a little too much gas into it and just take the car loose.
So Britton now stuck with a lap car in between as we set back here, 7th, 8th position, starting to close back up. Hurst and Daniels side by side down the hill, but a little mistake there on the exit for Hurst. He's going to peek to the inside now and try to get that position. Daniels locks it up a little bit, opens up the door up the hill. Hurst isn't going to take advantage of that. He backs up. They were side by side there on the exit of the final turn, and then Hurst made a little mistake there that cost him some time. He still had the speed, but he wiggled coming out of the turn 11.
I don't think there's 11 turns on this track.
Yeah, there's definitely 11 turns. If you count the bus stop.
Yeah, you would say that.
We'll go with 9.
That seems fair.
And Cox by to lead another lap. He's led every single lap this race. 19 to be exact. 20 as we came across. And pulls out 7 seconds over Howerton. Coming up on that halfway point. 12 cars actually having a scoring broken here. 11 cars on the lead lap. Ricky Evans would get a lucky dog if by some chance we had a caution, but based off of what we've seen so far, these guys so spread out, it would take something dramatic, apocalyptic even, to bring a yellow out full course.
Another thing that these drivers are going to start considering is pit times. That with that 40-mile-an-hour zone, Richard Hurst makes a good move on the 28 going into the chicane, as now he's blocked up by the 70 going out of the chicane. Really good move. But going back to what I was saying is pit strategy. What are these guys going to do about pit times? Because 40 miles an hour down pit lane is pretty devastating, as most of these drivers are more used to 55 to about 60 miles an hour down pit road, so that way they can try and keep their position in. And as you can see, coming off of turn 7, it's pretty tight going into pit road with that yellow line. Most of these drivers you can see are diving into that corner to come off the corner to enter pit road, or even just to come off. It's pretty sketchy going through there.
Right on board with the 66 of Fiedler, and he is trying to catch up to the 30 of Wagoner. All these positions back here still up for grabs. Overshoots turn 1. That's not going to do it. And Greg Pillar now also overshooting. Shane Gunter. A lot of these drivers from 13th on back still having a lot of struggles. Some of the lap times up in the 119s now.
A lot of these drivers are pretty worried about brake fade as well. Coming into the chicane, that's where most of it's going to be, as whenever they're trying to brake as hard as they can. They're usually braking at about the 500 meter mark before even entering the chicane, trying to get down, getting down to second gear, or even trying to stay in third gear, trying to go around that chicane into the bus stop.
That was the 58 machine, Dustin Buck. I didn't even see him as they entered the chicane there, and he came back across the nose of Shane Gunter. I thought he was going to get into him, but this is your 9th place driver right here, trying to navigate this traffic. And he almost got in contact with the 22 of Gunter as they exited that corner. But into another time zone, you can see the lead dwindle down a little bit. Cox is probably going conservative here. There's no reason for him to push it. You got a 6-second lead. You might as well just try to maintain that. As you see, down another 10th or 2. Howerton is chasing him down, but we're approaching green flag pit stops here very soon. You have to say that Cox is faster than the entire field on that short run.
He's just out for a Sunday drive. Doesn't really have anyone coming up on him sooner than later to actually force him to in and keep that car up in the front.
So Howerton shaves off a couple more tenths there that lap last time by. Some maybe a little bit of mistakes starting to happen for the 05, but he has a sizable enough lead that he can afford a couple of those as he approaches another lap car. That is the 033 machine of Luke Rakowski, the last car on the lead lap here. And cycling through the top 10, as we just about hit that halfway point, we'll take you through your Thrustmaster through the field. PJ Cox has led every single lap of this race. He'll come by for lap number 24 led out of these last 2 corners now as he approaches the 11th place driver, Luke Rakowski, to put him a lap down. He's had a phenomenal race thus far. Michael Howerton actually coming down pit road now, and Howerton's going to stay out for another lap. The 52 car is going to take over the lead here on lap 25. Richard Hurst is up to 3rd position. A few other drivers have come down pit road and put themselves a lap down. There's Hurst in 3rd, though. He got by Bill Daniels, and it looked like Brian Hennings had another off-track moment, so he's fallen back to 6th. He'll be down pit road now as well. Bill Daniels and just ahead of him from the 5th spot. William Britton's going to go by, and so trying to do this Thrustmaster through the field, I did it exactly when they hit pit road, and so at this point, I'm just going to give it a break. And we'll ride around this place with Michael Howerton as he comes up for probably his pit stop next time by.
I would say that'd be a pretty good strategy for him to actually come down pit road, seeing that PJ came down as well, knowing that his tires are probably shot as well. I said that twice. Oops. Just going to play into his hands. He does have a pretty sizable lead, about 8
Getting a little loose there. It's a little sideways as he tries to readjust to enter pit road. But he makes it in okay. And he'll get a couple laps led. Richard Hurst. Very close one. Sorry to cut you off there, Stephen, but thought he was going to lose it there in the last turn.
Oh, don't feel bad about it.
There's the 21 car. He's going to stay out 2 laps longer than your previous leader. And the 05 of Cox is going to resume 5th position after his pit stops. Michael Howerton and William Britton still out on the racetrack. So these guys stretching it a little bit further. Howerton into the stall now. 4 tires and full tank of Sunoco race fuel. There's Chris Phillipson from the 5th position. Chris Hodges. He comes in as well. Shane Gunter, the 35 of Casey Ellis, in as well. And that just about cycles the entire field. And I'd say if you're a lap down at this point, you might as well just hit pit road. I know you've got battles going on back there, but you really stand to gain nothing at all. There's not going to be a yellow that resets the field or puts you in a better situation. So the longer you stay out there on older tires, the more time you're going to lose to maybe some of these guys that have came down that were a lap down. There's Rakowski now from the 10th spot. I would predict that Hurst is probably going to come in now. Yes, he does. And looks like Britton's going to hug the curb and come down, and that will cycle through pretty much everybody. Ricky Evans still out there on the racetrack. He's in 11th. He's able to get back on the lead lap, but again, part of this group that hasn't hit pit road just yet. About 5 cars left on the racetrack that haven't hit pit road, and off track here, it looks like Darrell Aronson goes off the racetrack and elects to tow it to pit road. He hit the wall here through the S's, and then looked like that machine was damaged bad enough that this next chicane doesn't work out. Been frustrated, he pulls it out, face plants it into the wall, and he's done for the day.
One thing that these drivers have said is that if you try to brake going into the chicane or any sort of turn, these cars are heavy, especially on the front nose. If you try to brake and turn, it's just going to snap the car loose. And as you saw, he saw his mistake and was trying to correct it, but he was just way too late going into the chicane.
And there's a car stopped there waiting for the leader to go by. Looks like the 38 machine of Jeff Scott. He'll go another lap down. So we have 11 cars. Ricky Evans, who's still out there on the racetrack, 27 laps deep into this run. And for every lap that goes by, those guys that have hit pit road that are a lap down behind him are gaining time on him. 1:19 for his last lap time. Some of the cars that are a lap down, we're talking about 1:19. Well, let's see here. We've got a number of different cars that are a little bit faster, but I find it hard to believe that drivers after 4 tires and fuel are running 129, so I'll have to wait for this data to catch up. Aronson going back out on the racetrack now after using that fast repair. Cycling through, we've got a few cars that are 3 laps down now. Greg Spiker, Jimmy Socks. It looks like Aronson was able to keep it 2 laps down, but he'll be at threat of going another lap down here shortly. Overall, though, PJ Cox showing him how to get around this place tonight, Steven.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, it's all about rhythm. And he's showing a really good rhythm as he's put almost the entire field a lap down as he's going into the S's right now. Ricky Evans just came over the radio saying he's going to go into the pits right now, dropping down from 11th to 12th now, putting himself to a lap down.
So Ricky Evans down and away. It looks like he just topped off with fuel. I don't know that he took tires. It is a 14.8 in the box, but he pretty much ran that car out of fuel staying out that long. He'll have a little bit fresher tires now. He might be able to get a couple of those positions back and work his way back up to the 11th spot. Dustin Buck will be about 7-8 seconds ahead. Actually longer than that because we have 22 seconds from Luke Rakowski to Dustin Buck. So that's a pretty sizable margin of about 30 seconds that Evans is going to have to make up. But still plenty of time to do it. We have over 20 to go. And PJ Cox comes by for another lap led. We hope you're enjoying tonight's action here live from Watkins Glen International for the VRX World Cup race number 5. We're going to take a quick commercial break here on V-Speed, and we'll bring you back for uninterrupted coverage right after this.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff. The motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Back here live from Watkins, Glen in New York, and it looks like a battle for third position is heated up with Bill Daniels, Brian Hennings going back at it. The 56 gets out of the way, but here tonight for the VRX World Cup, it's been a good one. PJ Cox has led almost every single lap. He resumes the lead on lap 28, and he hasn't looked back since. He's actually made a mistake. He had a 6-second lead. I don't know if he got caught up in something here, but so we get back here trackside in just a moment. We want to remind you that tonight's series is presented by Thrustmaster, Butt Kicker, and Carpe Diem Creations. That sunset on the backdrop of the Butt Kicker logo needs to go away so we can get a better look at it. There it is. And I'm your host, Bradley Cooper, alongside Stephen Brown here tonight. So go back trackside. Hennings has been battling with Daniels, but a big mistake made somewhere for PJ Cox. I'm not sure what happened to this car, but the 05 has lost a ton of ground to Howerton. They're half a second apart now. I'm going to go back in the session events and see if I can figure out what happened. I have no information here on my entire event list that says that PJ had a problem. Well, let's see it right here. I don't really have anything for you on that. I mean, it says he was driving slowly. He's coming up through the S's. Looks like he had already lost some time. So did he have a pass-through penalty or something that maybe he had to come down pit road? I'm not entirely sure.
My guess is whenever he came off of turn 1, you saw he came over the rumble strips and probably got that notification saying that he cut the course and probably had to slow it down a little bit as Howerton's trying to look towards the inside going into the chicanes. Just doesn't have it.
Well, we took a commercial break with the race pretty much in hand for the 05. We come back from it, And we've got a battle for the lead. We have a battle for third place as well, but it's subsided. Ryan Hennings got around the 28, and now Richard Hurst from 5th trying to look for 4th spot as they go through the bus stop. These 3 cars off the track now for the 28 car, and that's going to allow Hurst to get the position. Coming by for lap 35, the 52 car.
We got a little problem. We got a problem at turn 7. Benjamin Richard just got turned going into pit road. I'm not sure who the other car was, but he got turned.
He overshoots this turn 6 and then comes back out onto the racetrack. It looks like he cuts someone off, maybe. No, that's the 58. Runs right into the back of him. Taking on board here with the 58 car. So that back there deep in the field, but the 56 car on the pit lane, the 58. And could this be one of those situations where not only did they get damaged, but they could have a penalty as well?
It could possibly result in that.
It's tough to say here, but tell you what, the battle for the lead is still hot. 52 of Howerton came out of the final turn completely sideways. Trying to get that advantage on PJ Cox to take over the lead. He hasn't been able to do so. He's maintained that half a second. But whatever happened to the 05, he's cleaned it up. He hasn't made the mistake since. That 58 car is having a struggle and an off track there for Howerton. But you just saw the 58 go off the course. Dustin Buck rather is 2 laps down in 14th and really just needs to focus here on not getting into anyone and bring it home, because if he does get that 12X penalty, he'll lose 3-4 positions very easily.
Looking at his nose, it looks like he's got a little bit of a steer knockout. And probably his steering is knocked out a little bit because going through his turns, it's looking not too good for him. Probably that toe linkage is probably shot.
Howerton gets loose again coming off of turn 1. There's Hennings back in 3rd. He's since pulled away from Richard Hurst, about 17-second gap. So Hurst was turning faster lap times, but now this lap traffic seemed to be playing a factor, and it's actually a 2-second gap. I apologize, I got that number mixed up on my gap and interval, but that lead still, it's grown tremendously over this course of time, and Howerton losing some more ground. It looks like the 05 has found his rhythm again. It took him a few laps to get it back. He's starting to pick off the lap traffic and put a gap between him and the 52. So still the biggest mover of the race right now. 12 positions gained here for the 28 of Daniels. He's sitting in the 5th spot right now, catching back up to Richard Hurst a little bit at a time. Hurst last time by a 14.9. Daniels just about 1,000th of a second, actually 0.8 of a second slower. So those numbers flip-flop, and for all the ground he had made up that one time by, it's all dwindled away. But we'll carry on through our Thrustmaster through the field. We'll pick up where 6th place driver Chris Phillips is right now. He's 1 spot up. He's having a solid day. He had fallen back to 8th at one point, so after pit stops, he's back up close to the top 5. He has a 14-second gap to make up if he wants to pass Bill Daniels. Behind him, your points leader, Chris Hodges. But after tonight, some of the guys that are close to him in the points, well, you're seeing one of them up in 2nd position right now. Will probably take over the lead. But the 34 surviving here tonight. 2-time winner William Britton sitting in the 8th position, trying to mitigate some of the damage done for his off weeks. Remember, he had that bad race at Auto Club that sent him back, and he's rebounded at a couple different locations, but for every win he's had kind of an off race to match it. That's why he finds himself here tonight at Watkins Glen. He's just got to mitigate that and get a top 10. Joseph Fagioni close behind him here in the 9th spot. And Fagioni has had a quiet day. He started up in the 5th position, so some spots lost. And we're talking about over 50 seconds to catch up to the top 5. It's going to be a tall order. Casey Ellis is going to round out the top 10. And that awesome paint scheme, Steven, that you mentioned earlier before the broadcast, I have to agree, it is a good-looking car. So PJ Cox, still your leader, the 52 of Howerton, 6 seconds back. He's trimmed that lead down a little bit more. He was a couple tenths faster that last time by. Will the 52 have anything for him as we approach 10 to go?
I think all that the 52 is looking for is just a mistake. He's just waiting. He's gaining time, but he's also making mistakes, trying to overdrive the car, trying to catch up to him.
And another big mistake right there. He said he was waiting for a mistake, but I don't think he meant he was waiting for his own. He makes a huge one there through the bus stop and gives up about a second to the 05, and he can't afford that. If he wants a shot here in these last 10 laps, he's going to have to drive perfect.
Like I said at the beginning, brake fade, it could possibly be playing a factor for the 52 as well. He's probably just braking too hard going into the corners. That's another possibility where he's not able to get the car to actually turn for him and try to make up.
Hennings is 15 seconds back, looking like he might just wrap it up in 3rd spot unless he has a mistake as well. We saw him have a spin there coming out of the second to last turn. So he's had a tough night tonight, not where he probably wants to finish this race. He felt like he had the speed to win this thing. He knew, he was aware of the lap times that the 05 and the 52 were running, but here today, looking like a podium day. But a disappointing one at that, because Hennings felt like he had the speed to win this event.
And we've also got Richard Hurst to even try to consider about, with these last 10 laps dwindling down, he could probably make something happen where he just blows through it. But at this point, it just doesn't seem like it.
12 seconds back here for the 4th position. Christopher Hodges works his way into the top 5, and that's what Hodges needs to do here. He needs to get as close to Howerton as he possibly can. And he is mowing through this racetrack. Look at him cutting the very edges of that chicane there in the bus stop. Rides the rumble strips, comes through the carousel. 34, somebody lit a fire under his ass because he is coming.
Well, he's going to put the lawn care guys out of a job if he keeps doing that.
He trimmed the banking, but, I mean, he's not off track, so technically he's not going to get a penalty. He has to be careful not to cut that too much more than he already is, though. 8 seconds back from Hurst and closing. Last time by, he was about half a second faster. He has the time to do it. There's Hurst in the 4th spot as we check back in. He's coming up the S's right now in the uphill. We'll go back to Hodges, who's just now about where he was. 7.6 seconds separate 4th and 5th position. PJ Cox pulls his lead back to 3.2 seconds as he comes across the line for lap 43. Unless something crazy happens here, Steven, the 05 car with a dominant performance, I think he's got this thing wrapped up.
I would agree with you on that, Bradley. He's got this wrapped up 100%. Like you said, you never know, especially here at the Glen, you don't really know. You could over throttle it, you could over brake it, you could spin out, something happened in front of you, you don't even see it. Still got a little bit of race left, but could be a long way for Michael Howerton right there behind him, about 3.5 seconds back.
And you can see Howerton able to match the lap times at different moments. Last time by, he was a 10th faster, but it's the mistakes, and that's really what this track is about. You have all these opportunities to make a mistake. We talked about how many different places you can go off course here and where it can cost you the most. That bus stop, the S, is probably the most dangerous parts of this racetrack. And then you have these final 2 corners where it's really easy to overshoot them. Kind of have that runoff there. It's kind of difficult to judge where to exit this final corner because the wall is so long and really close to the exit of the corner. It's one of the few places that that's the case. But while we think about this for a moment, we size this up a 3-second lead. Let's go on board with the 05. Let's find that volume knob and let's turn it up here, bring the noise a little bit on V-Speed. See that lead grows to 4 seconds there as we rode on board with the 05. Just over 5 to go, and Howerton doesn't really have the speed that time by, a second slower almost. Hennings is actually the fastest car on the racetrack this time by, a 1:14.7. But too little too late here for the 74 car with that mistake he made, put him 11 seconds back from second position. Doesn't look like he's going to have anything for him. He's going to have probably a 1.5 seconds a lap to have any chance at catching Howerton. Doesn't look good. Richard Hurst, a 1:15.7 that last time by. Looking pretty solid to come home in the 4th position because Hodges is still 7 seconds back and has since kind of lost some of that time. Made a mistake somewhere along the way as he was a full second slower than Hurst. Checking back with these guys deep in the field here. Casey Ellis, Ricky Evans, 9th and 10th position, so only 8 cars left on the lead lap. William Britton in the 84 is in 8th position. He is spread out. This whole field tonight, Steven, has spread out pretty much from lap 1 on. They just continued to do this. And after those green flag pit stops, it really showed how many guys are quick enough on the short run to pull out to such a lead and then maintain it.
Yeah, these drivers are very familiar with pack racing. With road courses, pack racing is little to non-existent here. because you have all these right turns, you have the braking limits and things like that. And just showing the speed of how these guys are going, they're all just trying to be patient and just finish it out.
Well, speaking of patience, some of the guys that were deep in this field to start the race, you got Bill Daniels, who's still up 10 spots, Richard Hurst up 4 spots, Ricky Evans, who played the patience game. He didn't try to force any issues. He stayed out a little bit longer than the rest of the field, and he's going to get a top 10 here tonight. I was kind of worried about his situation after staying out that long, but it looks like the 14 car kind of knew the timings of how and when to pit and what to do, and he's going to finish pretty well in this thing. You know, he's not the fastest car out here on the racetrack by any means, but to finish in this top 10, that itself is an accomplishment here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and knowing Ricky, even just getting a top 10, he's happy. If he doesn't come out with a win, he's happy. He's one of those humble drivers that you'll ever get to meet. And he'll even teach you a few things. He's taught me a few things on how I can improve my driving. And finishing out where he's at, he's not going to be sad about it.
Now he does lose another lap here as the 05 goes by. Luke Rakowski is about 2 seconds back. He is within striking distance if a mistake is made. Closest battle on the racetrack here. We got a car off the racetrack, actually. That's the 90 machine of Greg Pillar. Not sure what happened to him. We'll take it back on the V-Speed Instant Replay. Looks like he just got on throttle a little too soon or a little too heavy. Tried to catch it, goes sideways. Everyone able to avoid him and conscious enough to just move it out of the racetrack and let everyone go by. So well done there by the 90 machine to not get caught up in anything major. But a mistake, well, I don't know if it's a mistake, but PJ Cox is down pit road. And we didn't factor this in, but some of these drivers aren't going to have to pit here. They stretched the run out far enough that they're not going to have to hit pit road. Does Michael Howerton or Brian Hennings have enough to make it to the end? I mean, it's one thing to be fast, but if you're using up a lot more fuel than the rest of this field, that could cost the 05 this win here tonight. 3 laps to go. We have a race again.
It's possible. We do have a race. And it's possible that he just didn't take enough fuel on his green flag stop. Is one thing that I have noticed is that there's a thing for auto fuel, and your pit crew won't give you enough fuel for the last bit of runs. So it's possible that this is a devastating mistake for PJ Cox.
Yeah, he loses 20 seconds here. He had a massive lead over Howerton. He comes in, tops off, comes back out in third, mind you. So he's not totally destroyed for the podium, but unfortunately, he's not going to win this race because based off the numbers that we saw in the previous stint, Howerton and Hennings both could go over 25 laps, and they only have to get around here 2 more times. And it looks like an upset here for the 05 here tonight, the 52. Coming around the chicane. Just has to do it carefully. Don't make any major mistakes. Hennings back there in the background. I think that 74 car smells blood in the water.
Probably. He's just going to have to wait for Mike to make a mistake, either spin out or even get caught up with lap traffic where he's going to have more speed to potentially even catch him.
Well, last time by, Hennings was 2 seconds faster than Howerton. We cross the line here, a 1:18.751. Brian Hennings, a 1:14.8. So 4-second difference. Hennings is on his way.
Hennings smells blood, and he wants that win.
Maybe we're driving a little bit up through the S's here. Howerton just now exiting them as he comes up to the bus stop. 4-second gap as they come to the chicane. Howerton out of there now. Henning's just now entering it. Lead dwindles down to almost 4 seconds flat through the carousel, but it doesn't look like Hennings has enough time. The 52 of Michael Howerton pulls off the upset, and the VRX white flag. Michael Howerton off of the final turn for the final time. He's going to get the win. Henning second, and PJ Cox is going to finish third in this upset. Well, how about that? PJ Cox that came down pit road probably a lap or two shorter than these guys and didn't have enough to make it to the end.
Very good win for Michael. He played his strategy well, staying out as long as he could, tried to push the car as much as he could, trying to save as much fuel as he could. It plays out really well for him for the win tonight.
Coming around here on the cooldown lap, Ryan Hennings, it would narrow that lead down to just under 4 seconds. Trying to chase down the 52. You know, Hennings takes back that self-spin on the second to last corner. He could have been the car that we're talking about here in Victory Lane, but really and truly, we thought we had called it. The 05, we said it. It was going to take something dramatic, and a late pit stop, that fits under that category.
I don't think he's going to burn it down.
Acting like he's done this before. 52 car. Gonna bring it to pit road. And that'll do it for the day. Michael Howerton, your winner here tonight. Nope, he chooses to come back out. Apparently he forgot that he won this race. There you go, Michael.
Or burn it down, brother. Come on.
There's the 74 of Hennings, but now comes back out. Area 51 machine is victorious here today. Post-race interviews with your top three. You're watching the VRX World Cup live from Watkins Glen International. We're going to take a quick break here while we round up those drivers, and we'll be back right after this.
I played a couple of simulators and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
here live from Watkins Glen International. The VRX World Cup has concluded its 122 miles here tonight in New York. Final results up on your screen. It was a tight battle. We didn't suspect it to be. PJ Cox falls back to third after a dominating performance and leading over 35 laps here tonight. The 05 car has to come down pit road, and he'll round out your top three. Howerton gets the win. The upset for the 52 tonight. Brian Hennings comes home in second. Again, the 05 in third. Richard Hurst is going to finish in fourth position with Christopher Hodges rounding out the top five. Bill Daniels in sixth spot with William Britton, the two-time winner, in seventh. Casey Ellis in eighth. Chris Phillips in ninth. And Luke Rakowski gets back around Ricky Evans at the very end of this race to bring out your top 10. 11th spot goes to Ricky Evans, Shane Gunter in 12th, Edward Fiedler in 13th, Jeff Scott in 14th position, 15th Greg Pillar, 16th James Wagoner, Dustin Buck in 17th, Greg Spiker 18th, Jimmy Sox 19th, and Teresa Spiker will round out the top 20. Final 7 cars up on your screen here. You've got Daryl Arneson in the 51, finishing 21st. Joseph Fagioni in 22nd. Benjamin Richards finishes 23rd after that podium day that he had last week. He comes home in the 23rd position. Kevin Mulcahy in 24th. John Hudson off the track here. Logan Rhodes electing not to take a lap. And Jared Epker also in pit road for the beginning of this race. But now we're going down trackside. We have your top three here for interviews, and we're going to start with your third place finisher of the night, PJ Cox, and we have Stephen Brown down there alongside him.
PJ, you had a dominating race tonight, man, but that upset at the end, can you bring us up to speed of exactly what happened right there with that final pit stop?
Man, I don't know. That's what me and the guys were just sitting there talking about. I was just way short on fuel. I don't know what was causing me to use so much more than everybody else, but right before that first stop, I had like a 9-second lead, and I burnt all of it saving fuel, and I just couldn't gain no ground for some reason. So it just come up short, man. Not sure why, but it's just one of them things. That's racing.
It sounds like you need to have a conversation with your pit crew if that's my mistake.
And I tell you what, if I knew who to fire, I'd fire him right now.
Of course. But you led 38 laps today, man. You had a fantastic run. You were even getting up to even close to about correct me if I'm wrong on this, Bradley, about a 22-second lead, if my math is correct.
No, I think the largest deficit that we had here tonight was around 8 seconds.
Yeah, pretty dominating race. And as it was coming down to 10 laps to go, PJ, we were saying that you had this race in the bag, and then once we saw you on pit road, we were like, oh, that's an upset.
Man, I'm telling you, like I thought I did all the way, and it just never, the fuel mileage never equaled out. So we just came up short today. Yeah, it's just part of it. It was a good race though. I had fun.
100%. Anyone you want to say hi to or give a shout out to?
Man, just thank you guys for what you do. You guys put on a good broadcast. VRX, for hosting all this stuff. My race team, Lone Star Racing, those guys, they're part of the reason why I'm as fast as what I am. Amco Transmissions, Kansas Potable Water, Fahey Race Wraps, True Blaze Media, all those guys, man, they helped me a bunch, and I appreciate all of it.
And we thank you for coming out tonight, PJ, as you finish out third with a major upset on pit road. Bradley, sending it back up to you.
Third place finisher of the night, PJ Cox. We talk about all the mistakes that can be made in this race, but we never really factored that in. What could happen with being short on fuel, and it could have been the auto fuel that we have here on the iRacing surface now, and I know that's bit me a time or two, or it could just have been the line that PJ was running, maybe floating the throttle to keep the car more stable, burning a little bit more each lap than everyone else, because he even said there in that first run that it used up a lot more than he expected. He was still trying to figure it out, but Overall, though, it's still a solid day, and I know he wants this one back, but third place here tonight. Now we take it down pit road a little bit further. We have your second place finisher of the night. That's Brian Hennings in the number 74. And Brian, I tell you what, man, after that self spin coming out of the second to last corner, navigating lap traffic, which I know was frustrating, and then, you know, just trying to string it out and figure out where you're going to end up in this race after, you know, 9 opportunities to make a mistake every single lap, you come home second.
I'm kind of surprised about that. I think I self-spun myself 3 times, and then I also had a nice misshift coming out of turn 1 on 1 lap that cost me a few seconds. Yeah, not the greatest race, but I will definitely take a podium.
Well, you were looking really solid, though, in practice and qualifying. You got up there in the front row, and then we set it up here. You run 14 laps, I think, or 11 laps, somewhere in that line, where you were right on the back bumper of PJ before the lap traffic. How tough was it tonight to mitigate those mistakes, though?
It was tough, man. I mean, this car can get squirrely if you just get on it just a little bit too much on one of these turns. It's very easy to spin it. That and I want to say it was about halfway through the race, I had hit 11x, so I had to be careful for the last half of the race and not get one more X or get the drive-through penalty. So that was fun to deal with as well. But all in all, I mean, good race. I can't complain. I still got a podium. So, but yeah, it was definitely a tough track tonight.
Well, with the new penalty, you're able to avoid that drive-through, and thankfully, coming home here in second, you said you were going to be up here in the booth, so I know you've prepared the list. Shout them out.
Right on. Well, obviously, got to start with you guys. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, Stephen Brown, and everyone from V Speed. Can't wait to go back and watch myself self spin once or twice. I'd like to thank my teammates, also Mr. Robert Stanners of VRX, everyone along with VRX. My wife, special shout out to my daughter. Love you, girl. More than anything, you know that. And any family and friends that are watching at home. Hopefully it was a good show for y'all.
We appreciate your time, Brian, and well done there. Nice execution on the list. And hopefully next time we get to talk to you, it'll be at a track that you feel that you're more confident at, because I know you were confident here, but I know you like those 1.5 miles. So we're going to go back to something a little more normal for you next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Chicagoland. I think it's Chicagoland next week. I like that track. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. And appreciate everything, man.
All right, that's the number 74 second place finisher here tonight, Brian Hennings. And finally, we take it down to victory lane. Stephen Brown has the race winner in the upset here, the 52 of Michael Howerton's down there with him.
Michael, you're standing here in victory lane with me. How does it feel to be in victory lane coming out with your, if I'm right, your first win tonight, man, with that upset with the 05 with his late pit stop? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, man, it feels good. I struggled a bit so far in the series. A lot of the reason I struggled so far in the series has been not being able to make all the races. Last race, I was in the hospital, had heart surgery this week, and so came out and getting a win feels pretty good. So yeah, we were quick. I knew when we were practicing, laying down some good laps. Myself, Brian, and PJ were all laying down real good laps. So like I was just trying to be consistent and stay in contention. And so yeah, it feels real good, and it felt good on the track tonight the whole night.
Yeah, 100%, man. You ran a really good race. You did have a few mistakes as you were pulling in the 05, where you did drop out a little bit. I was explaining to Bradley that making those mistakes could cost you dearly, but with that upset with the 05, it really played into your hand.
Yeah, I realized what was going on. So, like when the race first started, in the first lap or so, I saw how much fuel we got, which they had given us not a full tank. They give us 15 gallons. I don't know what percentage that is, like 80, 75, 80% fuel. And then, and I knew that, I mean, that would be close on being able to split it even, 25 laps for the 50-lap race. And so I had my fuel black box up, and I had my Race Lab apps overlay on with the fuel calculator both. And within the first lap or so, I realized that it said I was going to be able to get like 24.6 laps or something like that. And so I figured if I could just stretch it out and save a little bit of fuel in the first stint, that I can make the whole rest of the race after the second stint on one tank of gas, and I wouldn't have to pit again, and I wouldn't have to save. And so I started running a lot of the turns that first stint in third gear when most people run them in second, to save fuel, and I was able to do it. And why I just want to give a shout out to Scotty Stevens and Tracy Rumschlag, who is my Area 51 teammates in my pit box with me the whole race. Scotty Stevens called me out in the middle of the race. Steven, he said, Mike, he says, you should be in second gear in that turn. And I said, no, Scotty. I said, I'm doing it on purpose. I'm saving fuel, and I'm trying not to burn my tires because I want to make it the full 25 laps so that I don't have to worry about fuel in the second stint. And so I know that Brian and PJ, I watched them running real hard. I just let them pull away from me. They pulled away from me probably about 10 seconds on the first stint. And so whenever it came time to pit, they had to pit a lap earlier than me. And I told them right then and there, I said, they're going in now. They're not going to have enough fuel to make it to the rest of the race. And so in that second stint, you were talking about making some mistakes there whenever I was catching up to PJ. I was catching him fast. And I told my buddy Scotty in my pit box, said, man, go check on him. Go get in his car. Go see if he wrecked. Go see what's going on. And he gets in his car and he says, Mike, he's saving fuel big time. And I closed in on him like 10 seconds and like 4 laps. And when I caught him, he started to race a little harder. And so I didn't push it then. I figured, he's fat. He's a little faster than me. And if he truly is saving fuel, I'll get around him anyway before the end of the race. And then he picked it up a bit, and he tried to go ahead and race and pull ahead, and he did about 3 or 4 seconds. But then there in that last lap, right before the last lap, he didn't have enough fuel because he stopped saving to stay ahead of me, and then he ended up having to pit, and that's how I got the win. I'll take that any day, man. I just wanted to be fast and be consistent, and put myself in a position to excel if the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, and consistency is key here at Watkins Glen, as you've pointed out. Anyone that you want to say hi to, give a shout out to, or any sport teams that you want to say hi to?
Absolutely, man. Appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate VRX Simulators for running this 2024 World Cup. And it's been a great experience. I'm hoping also to run it again next year. I was excited over my first win here in the World Cup, and you guys doing a great job broadcasting these races. Appreciate that. I want to give a big thank you, like I said, to my teammates there at Area 51, Scotty Stevens and Tracy Rumschlag in my pit box tonight. And, I also would like to give a shout out to some guys that we work with and collaborate with a bit there at Crowder Gianti Racing. Ashton Crowder is trying to race his way into Road to Pro this year, and we work with those guys a lot. So I'd like to appreciate them for the collaboration we have with each other. And I just appreciate all the guys that put everything into making what we do here good. So appreciate you guys, and thank you for the broadcast. And again, thanks VRX for sponsoring this 2024 World Cup.
100% with Michael Howerton in victory lane tonight, and it's going to be taking it back up to you, Bradley.
So victorious here in the upset, the 52 car gets the win, and it's been a good one here tonight from Watkins Glen. If you guys did enjoy tonight's broadcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a single race, as we bring you flag-to-flag coverage all season long here for the VRX World Cup. But outside of that, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I was your host, Bradley Cooper, alongside Stephen Brown here on V-Speed. Next week, we have 1.5 mile racing from Chicagoland Speedway. That'll be March 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so we hope you can tune in there. For everybody at VRX that put this show on, Teresa Spiker, Brian Hennings, and the entire admin team that I know is just an endless list of people that put a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears into this. Adam Baker, that does all the graphics and all the things in the background here for V-Speed. Our other 2 producers, Morgan Cook and Eddie Smith. Actually, third producer, Christian Hill. We need to add to that list. It keeps getting bigger. And for Stephen Brown joining me up here in the booth. We thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week at Chicagoland.
played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff. The motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
And here comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
Oh!
Cabot, where did he come from? Here comes Zwack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.